Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Chapter 4 of Human Japanese. Today's focus is going to be on cultural notes and geography. So let's take a brief pause while the first 25 of hiragana characters sink in. When learning a language and culture, it's useful to have a general understanding of the way the country is laid out. In this chapter, we'll take a brief look at Japan and learn some of the major features and cities. As a brief housekeeping note, most of the place names we'll be seeing here are spelled differently in English than they are in Japanese. For example, the city we know as Tokyo is actually Tokyo in Japanese. In this chapter, I'll use the Japanese names in the main text and put the English names when they differ in parentheses. Like Hawaii, Japan was formed as a result of volcanic activity. Japan doesn't just have mountains. It would be more accurate to say that Japan is mountains. From virtually any point in Japan, you can see mountains in just about any direction you have an unobstructed view of the skyline. This is one thing I love about the way the country looks. Seeing those hazy, low-lying mountains in the distance always reminds you that you are in Japan. That's probably the intended result. Look at them mountains. They're definitely, I think, grassier than the ones here in Washington. Obviously, mountains are much more difficult to settle than plains, so the large population centers are all in the valleys between the mountains. Uh, the result is that even though the area of Japan is roughly the same size as the state of California, something like 80% of the population lives on something like 20% of the land. The population of Japan is about 127 million. To put this into perspective, imagine taking about 40% of the US population and crowding them all into California, and then further scrunching most of them into about 20% of that state. That gives you an idea for the space issues that the Japanese face. It also helps one to understand the cultural importance of cooperation and harmony. For example, one very strong concept in Japan is avoiding meiwaku, being a nuisance to others. You can think of it as the reverse of the golden rules. Instead of doing unto others as you would have them do to you, the Japanese rule is not to do to others what you would not want them done to you. Um, so the Japanese tend to be very conscious to avoid things like playing music too loud in apartments or letting one's children run wild in the supermarket. It's easy to see how living with a view to avoid meiwaku is important in cramped quarters. Japan is made up of hundreds of islands, but most of the population lives on four main ones. Um, Honshu, meaning main state, is the largest and central of the four, with about 100 million people. It's also where the majority of Japan lives. Honshu is the location of the major cities Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, Hiroshima, and Nagoya. Island of Honshu. The north To the north lies Hokkaido, famous for its ice festival held each year in the capital. Sapporo, the name of the island literally means North Sea route, and with wide open pastures and plains, Hokkaido is an exception to the normal rule of mountains and valleys in Japan. Hokkaido has fully one quarter of the arable land in Japan, um, so it leads the nation in the production of milk, beef, and many other agricultural products. With its beautiful open landscapes and cool weather, Hokkaido is a popular vacation spot for people looking to escape from the hot and humid summers further south. To the south of Honshu lies two islands, Kyushu and Shikoku. Kyushu means nine states, and in ancient times had nine prefectures, the Japanese versions of a state or a province. Though today it contains only seven. The island Kyushu. Kyushu is also home to Mount Aso, Japan's most active volcano, which you can ascend and look into its sulfuric otherworldly caldera. That's a good word. A fun day trip if you find yourself in the area. One of the largest areas in Kyushu is Fukuoka, at the north end of the island. Fukuoka is a large city of 1.4 million, with an international airport and amazingly good pork ramen. Seriously, I'm about that. I want that ramen. Shikoku means four countries, which again refers to the fact that it contains four prefectures. It's the smallest and least populous of the four main islands, with around 4.5 million inhabitants. The island Shikoku. I think I was pronouncing that wrong before. Shikoku. Another important chain of islands is Okinawa, located far to the south of the main four. about midway between Japan and Taiwan. Historically, Okinawa was not part of Japan, but a separate independent nation called Ryukyu Kingdom, like dragon, Ryukyu. In 1879, the island was forcibly made part of Japan. So many native residents consider themselves Okinawans first, and Japanese second. The climate can differ dramatically throughout Japan. Okinawa has a tropical Hawaii-like climate, but the rest of Japan gets four distinct seasons. Summers in Japan are hot and can be brutally humid. I've been told of this as well. The humidity lingers through the fall, holding the heat of the day in the air during the night, often making it possible to walk around after sunset in sandals and short sleeved shirts. Yep, yep. But by the time winter rolls around, Japan shows off another side. Even on the southern island of Kyushu, winters can be quite cold and snow is not unheard of. On the eastern side of Japan, the sky is almost always clear, making winters crisp and beautiful. This makes Tokyo a good place for sightseeing, even in the winter, as long as you bundle up tight. Japan is a beautiful country that offers four distinct seasons, ubiquitous mountains and valleys, and a variety of climates, from the cold of Hokkaido to the tropical weather of Okinawa. Um, but no matter where you visit, you're sure to enjoy the uniquely Japanese geography. Oh no, we're back to Hiragana. It looks like this is a particularly short chapter, so let's just take that as an opportunity to take a little breather, and we'll come back for chapter 5.